Good afternoon. Welcome to today's session, ANZ School Library Series, History Reference Source. My name is Rachel Lowe, and I'm an EBSCO training specialist. My background is in education, midwifery, and library and information studies. I'm a certified librarian, and I continue to practice clinically as a registered midwife. Please note that today's session is being recorded. You may have noticed that your microphone has been automatically muted. If you have any questions as we're going along, please hit the raise hand icon at the bottom of your screen or go ahead and type your message into the chat box. Please don't feel like you need to wait until the end of the session to ask any questions. Feel free to jump in anytime. A bit later on today, you will be receiving from me an email with a link to the recording of today's session, a copy of the PowerPoint slides, and a link to an online evaluation. The online evaluation only takes a couple of minutes to complete, and if you're able to take the time to do so, we do appreciate it. Each one we receive is read through carefully, and we use them to help structure future training sessions. I've put together a few objectives for today's session. It is my hope that by the end of the session, participants will be able to describe and navigate history reference source, access content, work with results, describe the history reference ebook collection, create activities for students using history reference source, and locate relevant help and support materials. So what is history reference source? This is a database that covers topics in history from the earliest civilizations through the 21st century. It's a research database that contains full-text journals, magazines, reference books, and thousands of primary source documents. History Reference Source uses the Explorer platform, which is ideal for school students to explore topics by categories such as arts and music, biographies, geography, health, history, life skills, and many more. You will notice that the categories are different depending what version of Explorer you have. Some versions are aimed at primary school children, some are aimed at secondary school children, and so the categories do differ. It also contains lexile measures, which is a way of measuring reading levels so that you can ensure that the materials you're giving your students are at an appropriate reading level. History Reference Source also has a companion ebook collection that contains reference books from top educational publishers and presses and encompasses a rich selection of historical titles covering global topics from the ancient world through today. If you subscribe to the History Reference ebook collection, you'll notice that it includes unlimited user access with no turnaways. So let's go ahead and jump into a live demo. If you would like to follow along, I'm just going to go ahead and put that link into the chat box. Okay, so the link is in the chat box. You should be able to click on it. When it asks you for a login, the login is hands-on training, and the password is train with a capital T, a number 1 instead of the I, and an exclamation point at the end. But I will just go ahead and put those in the chat box as well. And I'll just give everyone a minute just in case you're trying to get to click on that link. So again, in the chat box, you will find a clickable link and also the login and password. The login is not case sensitive. You don't need to capitalize the H in hands, the O in on, or the T in training, but the password is case sensitive. All right, now as I mentioned, I will be sending you a copy of the PowerPoint slides a bit later on this afternoon. Most of what I am doing today is going to be a live demo. So you will find that there's material on the PowerPoint slides that I'm not actually going to go over. I would rather show you via the screen than a PowerPoint slide. All right, so this is what the Explorer for Schools looks like. And again, there are different versions. I'm using the secondary school version today. If yours is slightly different, that could be why. But this is ideal for history reference source because it's really well laid out for students. As you can see, you have a topic overview here. And as students scroll down, you'll see there's a number of popular topics that they can click on. There's also those categories I mentioned. And again, you might have something slightly different at your organization. And here I have arts, music, biographies, geography, and so on. I have some featured collections there. And you'll notice here I have a spotlight on whatever the topic is. This is primary source documents. If students want to learn more about that, they can click into it and they will get some more information. Now you'll notice with these items here, you do have the option of how you want those shown. They are in a grid-like format with tiles, but you can have that listed as well. And you can also change the order. Clicking on Explorer takes you back to this home page or landing page. So if students click on cell theory, this runs a search for them. Now in Explorer, it automatically limits to full text. So that full text filter is automatically engaged. You can disengage it if you wish to, but you will find it is engaged by default. Okay, so let's just go back to that home screen. And if I have a student who's interested in, let's say, life skills, and you can see there are a number of subtopics here. And perhaps what they're interested in is social skills. And again, you have a number of subtopics here. So maybe they're interested in relationship management. And you find that that will run a search for relationship management. Again, the full text is selected by default, and it defaults to all results. But I can look just at articles, just at ebooks, just at reference materials, or just at videos. Okay, from the results list here, you'll notice with each one, it tells you what type of result it is. I've gone to reference books, so these will all be books here. But if I go to all results, I can see some of these are periodicals. I'll see books. I'll see peer-reviewed academic journals. I'll see all different types of things. If you're wondering why some of the words are highlighted and in italics, that's because they're part of our search terms. So our search terms were relationship management, so you can see that those words have been highlighted. So you'll notice the title is blue hyperlinked text. You'll also notice the author's name or names will be hyperlinked text as well. So if I were to click on Goldwater Barry, I will run a search for items by authors called Goldwater Barry. It tells us where it comes from, the name of the publication, vital speeches of the day, gives us the issue, tells us the database. Now we are just searching history reference source here. You'll have the first couple of lines of a description or an abstract there. And you'll also notice that each article is tagged with a number of subjects. So this is a way of applying metadata. It's just like using hashtags on social media. Again, that is hyperlinked. So you can see this one has been tagged with United States, Goldwater, Barry M, United States legislators, and so on. And if I wanted to run a search for other items tagged with United States, for example, if I click that, I will retrieve other items tagged with United States. So it tells us how we can access the full text. And if I go ahead and click on PDF full text, sometimes you'll see that, sometimes you'll see online full text, sometimes you'll see a little drop-down menu because both are available. Okay, so this opens up the full text here, and it's a PDF. So it looks just like the page out of the original publication. And you'll notice there's a number of icons here. If ever you're unsure what one means, you can hover your cursor. So students can save items. If they sign in, they can save them permanently, and that may be something that your more senior students will be looking at doing. Younger students, perhaps not, but it depends, of course, how much you want to go through with them. We've got the cite feature here. If you click on this, you get a drop-down menu of citation formats. When you find the one you want to use, you can copy to clipboard. You can also export citations using EasyBib or EndNote or whatever it is that you use. You can add this item to a project. You can share it, download it, print it. It does show some related items here. So these are related things. There's also a text-to-speech feature. So if your student clicks play, the entire article is read to them in a computerized voice. They can adjust the playback speed or download as an MP3. There's also accessibility there. If you click on the title, this gives you bibliographic information about the article or the book or the publication or whatever it is. So I can see there the title, the authors, the source, the document type. This was a speech, the subjects it's been tagged with, again, benchmarks if there are any, geographic terms if there are any, a short description or abstract, and so on. Okay, so of course your students can just go ahead and type in terms if there's something that they are interested in learning about. And they can also apply filters. So as I mentioned, the full text filter is engaged by default. If your students are looking just for peer-reviewed materials, if you're dealing with senior students, you've also got publication date limiters there, and also source type. So if they're specifically looking for magazines or reviews or primary source documents, and so on. Now, there are more filters available. If you click there, the menu slides out from the right-hand side, and you can look at items by Lexile range as well. So if you're looking for items for your students to read, and perhaps you're dealing with junior students and you want to look at lower Lexile ranges, you can see that items have been categorized. So you can limit your search just to items that would work for less advanced readers, for example. Now you also have access to an advanced search screen, and this is where you can do more advanced searching, which you might be something that you have students who are ready for that, or even if teachers or librarians are looking for items themselves. So as you can see with an advanced search screen, I'll just go ahead and clear that out. You have multiple search bars and you can add more. You have your Boolean operators there, and you also have fields here. So for example, if I were interested in finding items about Juneteenth, and let's say I specifically am looking for articles in Smithsonian Magazine, I can go to the source or journal name there. Now you'll also notice here, as I scroll down, there are some limiters here. Lexile reading scores is there. I can limit by publication date there. I've got my Lexile reading levels. Right away, I can limit by publication type, by number of pages. So if you only want very short articles or you only want articles longer than, say, 5 pages, you actually can filter that way as well. So you have a number of different filters that you can use here. But I'm just going to go ahead and search for that. And the reason it's done that is because I did not disengage my filters. And you can see that that filter for the Lexile reading level is left over from a previous search. So I'm just going to get rid of that. So it is good practice to always go to new search rather than just typing in new search terms in the search bar because your filters may carry over. All right, so this is my result for Juneteenth and the Smithsonian publication or magazine. So I can see I've got a couple of articles there. As you can see, you've got the title, the author's name. I can see that that's in Smithsonian Magazine, was published this month, and so on. Got a description. I can show more if I want to. If I wanted to do a search for all items tagged with Juneteenth, if I click on that, that will search for articles tagged with the subject Juneteenth. All right. Now, there's also the natural language search available. And so if your students are interested in using that, that will go ahead and run a search for me. Okay, you can also see a refined query there. And of course, with a question like that, they've only searched Juneteenth. But if you type in a more complex natural language search, it will create a query for you with Boolean operators and parentheses and that kind of thing. So you can see there's a few different items here. This is a book titled Juneteenth. If I click on PDF full text, it takes me into the PDF version. All right, now I did want to show you as well for items that are available in online full text. It looks very much like PDF full text, but of course PDF looks just like a printed page. You will have page breaks and you will have page numbers and things like that. When you have online full text, you'll notice, okay, that's just a one-page article, so that's not going to be very helpful. Let's just see if we can find another one. Okay, you'll notice I keep scrolling, so there are no page breaks there or page numbers. You still have access to those same items we looked at before. You can save, you can cite, you can add to a project and so on. What is unique about online full text is that you have a translate feature there. So it usually only takes about 3 to 5 seconds to translate an article. It's usually pretty quick. Fingers crossed it's not going to take longer today. And there you go. So that's been translated for me, and I can revert to the original language with one click. So it's online full text that has that translate function, but both the PDF full text and online full text have that text to speech or listen feature. Okay, now I did want to point out this may or may not be something that you want to um, show your students, but there is a dashboard there. And if the students create and sign into a My EBSCO account, they can save items permanently, they can set up projects, and it's a way of categorizing the items that they save. You can also access recent activity. So this gives me a search history. These are some of the searches that I've done during this session. Now you'll see there's a lot of searches there. And one of the reasons for that is that each time you change a search in any way, so if you add a filter or if you add a publication date filter or something like that, that counts as a new search. It's a really great way to be able to track the evolution of your search. and makes it very easy to jump back to a previous search as well. You can save searches, you can add them to projects and that type of thing also. In the recent activity, you can also see the records that you have viewed. All right, now I do want to mention as well, again, from that advanced search, here you can see that you can access your search options. Probably not something students would be doing, but perhaps something librarians would be doing. You can also access publications. So if I wanted to look for a specific publication, I can search by the titles. I can also search by subject and description. So if I'm looking for publications to do with history, I can find those here. I click into one of them, gives me some information about what that publication is, gives me information about the publisher, and I can access previous issues or search within the publication. You also have the subject's authority that can be accessed from that left-hand side of the screen or from that advanced search screen. And that's where you can look at search terms. As we saw in our results list, each article was tagged with a number of subjects. This is where you can look up what subjects are used. All right. Now, I did want to mention some sample activities that you may find useful with students. And one of those is doing a scavenger hunt. So I've got a sample activity here for a history scavenger hunt digital edition. And the students here will use the Explorer platform to search for answers to historical clues using the history reference source database. And so this just details this activity. You divide students into small groups or pairs, give each student a scavenger hunt sheet with 5 to 7 clues, and the students will use Explorer to search for answers using keywords. And then on their worksheet, they'll need to record the article title, one fact they learned, and cite the source. And I'll just show you some examples here. So these are sample clues for a scavenger hunt for younger students. And these are all quite Australia based. So you have some questions and then you have suggested search terms. And then I've got some sample questions for older students as well. So as I mentioned, I will be sending these slides out. So if that's something you're interested in adapting for a library or classroom activity, I've done something similar myself when I used to be a primary school teacher, and these work quite well. And it really gets the students very familiar with searching the database. And I've got a second sample activity here called History Headlines. And with History Headlines, the objective is for students to research a historical event or figure, and again, using history reference source on Explorer. And they are to create a mock newspaper front page featuring headlines, articles, and visuals based on their findings. So you need to either assign topics or let students choose a topic. This could be free choice or it could be choosing from a list. And then using Explorer, students must find a summary of the event or person, a quote or a primary source, a description or an image, and a date or location. Students then create a newspaper front page with a headline, main article, image or drawing, quote box, timeline or date box, and a fun fact corner. And then students can present these or they can be displayed. So these are just a couple of sample activities that could work well with students of varying ages, but it gets them used to the interface, used to Explorer, used to using the computer to research. All right, and I'm just going to go now into help and support. And I'm going to go onto EBSCO Connect. The web address for EBSCO Connect is simply connect.ebsco.com. And I will just pop a link in the chat box, but I will also send you a link in the email I send you this afternoon. So this is EBSCO Connect. As I mentioned, it's our online help and support portal. So if I'm interested in finding information about Explorer, for example, I can type that in. And as you can see, I've got a large number of results, 231 results there about Explorer. It is filterable down the left-hand side, and you'll notice there are video tutorials, there's articles, and so on. There's things like a promotion kit, there's History Reference Center on Explorer, and so on. And here I've searched History Reference Source, again, filterable down the left-hand side, and I've got some information there. All right, so we've looked at different ways you can use Explorer and particularly the database history reference source. We've looked at some possible activities for the classroom, and we've looked at ways of doing quite simple searching right through to more advanced searching. Does anybody have any questions about what we've looked at today? Well, thank you very much for attending the session. I hope that you found it useful. As I mentioned, I will be sending an email out this afternoon with a link to the recording of today's session, a copy of the PowerPoint slides, and a link to an online evaluation. Thank you so much for attending today and hope to see you next week.